When I transferred to this school, Eric had already dated all the pretty girls around. He would joke with his friends, "I'd rather date a dog than ever be with Zoe. I am Zoe." But a month later, his best friend cornered me against the wall and confessed his feelings. Seeing the marks on my body, Eric suddenly lost it. "Who gave you permission to touch her?" Chapter 1. Could you please help me pass this to Eric? I took the light pink love letter. This was the 11th one this month. Everyone knew I was Eric's childhood friend, and they also knew that no matter who he liked, it would never be me. So, they felt at ease asking me to deliver their love letters. But as usual, when Eric received it, he would raise an eyebrow, think about who the girl was, and then scoff. My standards aren't that low. He threw the letter back into my arms. "Someone at your level, I can't afford that." His friends all burst into laughter. And the look Eric gave me was filled with mockery. Why? Because the first love letter Eric ever tore up was mine. Chapter 2. Eric and I were childhood friends. Our parents got along well, so they naturally assumed we were close too. In the beginning, we were. Until an unexpected incident. It was during a game of truth or dare. Eric got a dare, and someone asked if he dared to kiss me. Back then, we were both young, with a strong sense of competitiveness. He asked, "Do you mind?" I hesitated for just a moment, and then he leaned in and kissed me. TCH, it's nothing special. From that moment, I was no longer seen as the untouchable high achiever, the top student of our grade. Instead, I became one of Eric's possessions. Chapter 3. Eric wasn't doing well academically. Because of this, his parents hoped I could help him study. But on the day we planned to meet at the library, I waited for almost an hour alone at the bus stop. Eventually, I found out through his social media that he was on a 10-game winning streak at an internet cafe. I took a cab to that shady internet cafe. The place was filled with smoke, and there was even a girl sitting on Eric's lap. They were all cheering for him. Then he suddenly turned his head and met my gaze. He responded with a wicked smile. Chapter 4. Zoe, are you king insane? Eric got scolded by his parents, and they took away all his allowance. He couldn't go to the internet cafe anymore because I had told on him. "You shouldn't be going to places like that," I said, enunciating each word carefully. Back then, I harbored feelings for him, stubbornly and self-righteously, believing I was doing what was best for him. But all I got in return was his growing resentment. Eric grabbed my chin. "What right do you have to control me? Did you really think that just because I kissed you once, you're my girlfriend? What a joke." Chapter 5. Eric had a handsome face. Paired with his rebellious personality, he quickly became popular at school. Many girls wanted to win him over. And he didn't refuse anyone, flirtatious yet heartless. Even just playing a casual game of basketball, his excellent skills would draw cheers from the crowd. But Eric didn't hold back when he threw the ball, aiming it harshly and without hesitation at me. "Sorry." He said it nonchalantly, watching as I clutched my arm in pain, his apology delivered with a carefree smile. "You won't hold a grudge against me, right, my dear little childhood friend?" And so, everyone knew that he hated me. Chapter 6. Gradually, I came to accept this reality. I carefully put away the love letter I had once written for Eric, with every word crafted with a young girl's feelings, and stopped paying attention to his affairs. But in front of our parents, we still had to pretend to get along. Eric's grades have been improving recently. It must be thanks to Zoe. I've prepared some fruit. You all should have some. Eric's mother beamed with a smile. Eric looked like he was in a good mood too. But he subtly gave me a warning look. His improvement in grades, of course, wasn't thanks to me. It was because he had recently been dating the school's top student. They often had study sessions after school. That is, until the day I accidentally caught them kissing in an empty classroom. Chapter 7. I had already tried to remove Eric from my world. But we attended the same school, always running into each other. As the top student for years, I had just been awarded the city's model student title and needed to give a speech on stage the next day. So, I stayed after school the day before to rehearse with the teacher. I passed by that empty classroom. The sounds from inside were soft and intimate. I turned my head slightly, and through the gap in the curtains, my eyes met Eric's. He was pinning the girl down on a desk. But even in that brief moment of looking up, he caught me. And I knew then, he had marked me down in his mind once again. Chapter 8. The school beauty, Eric's girlfriend, had always been the second best student in our grade, and she was also my classmate. But after she started dating Eric, her grades visibly declined. It quickly caught the attention of the teachers. They called me in. Has she been acting strange lately? Or hanging out with anyone bad? I just shook my head. I don't know. But the truth couldn't be hidden for long. Somehow, word got out that I had been questioned. Eric and the school beauty's relationship was exposed, and his parents found out. His father, who had a violent temper, took him home and gave him a beating. That day, no one was home at my place. Eric barged into my room uninvited. So, I underestimated you. He pushed me, and I lost my balance, hitting the desk. The drawer fell open, spilling its contents. Eric's hand froze on my wrist. Because we both saw it, the light pink love letter on the floor. It had my name and Eric's name on it. And he was all too familiar with my handwriting. Chapter 9. Oh, so it's jealousy. Eric had a look of sudden realization. He tore up the love letter, then grabbed me. I struggled. I didn't rat you out. He raised an eyebrow. There's something more important than that now. Eric picked up the scissors from the desk and cut off a lock of my hair. Zoe, I'd rather date a dog than ever be with you. Chapter 10. Eric used that lock of my hair to boast about the school beauty. But it didn't change his fate of being transferred by his father. On the day Eric left, the school beauty cried for a long time. I thought they would last forever. But just a few days later, she received intimate photos of Eric with another girl. And my lock of hair, along with the uneven strands at my temple, just ended up as something unresolved. Chapter 11. The school beauty's grades plummeted after that. She begged me to help arrange a meeting with Eric, just once. She wanted to see him. I couldn't refuse her. But I didn't expect that when I went, Eric was drunk at the bar. He recognized me and forcefully made me stay. Zoe, isn't this exactly what you wanted to see? He smiled in a way that was chilling. And so the next day, the school beauty received photos of Eric pinning me against the door of the private room, forcefully kissing me. Chapter 12. The school beauty and I had a falling out. The incident spread, and I became the one everyone pointed fingers at. I knew she ratted him out because she couldn't have Eric, so she sabotaged them out of jealousy. Exactly, and this time she even got an opportunity out of it. She was supposed to help them get back together, but ended up getting involved herself. Isn't that just disgusting? I became the target of isolation. But the irony was, they all seemed to forget that it was Eric's own flirtatious and heartless behavior that started all of this. Chapter 13. On the day I transferred out, Eric made a point of showing up to watch the spectacle. What, you couldn't stick it out anymore? His words were full of mockery. Zoe, you got what you deserved. And I just numbly nodded. So did you. Eric burst out laughing. He leaned in close to my ear and whispered. But it's okay, because now, in their eyes, we're just a perfect pair of heartless scoundrels, aren't we? Really? But suddenly, I realized I was starting to hate you. Chapter 14. Eric was popular wherever he went. Just 2 months after transferring, he had already dated all the pretty girls at the school. But without exception, he was always the one to end things, leaving the girls desperately pleading for him to stay. I overheard someone pointing at me and asking him, "What about her? She's so pretty." But Eric just laughed indifferently. "I'd rather date a dog than be with her. Besides, she's already my dog." But then, I heard someone object. "Eric, there's no need to talk about a girl like that." Chapter 15. Luis was Eric's roommate and his closest buddy. I knew him, but not because of Eric. It was just a few days after I started at the school, and there was a heavy downpour. I ended up taking shelter from the rain with him in one of the school buildings. Apart from the sound of raindrops, there was silence. But as the rain began to let up, he suddenly spoke. "So, you're Eric's little childhood friend, huh?" Chapter 16. After transferring, I was placed in the same class as Luis. Eric was in the neighboring class, and his current girlfriend was my desk mate. To avoid a repeat of what happened with the school beauty, I changed seats and became Luis's desk mate instead. I felt a bit awkward for some reason. But Luis didn't. He hurriedly tidied up his books, even helped me move my desk, and smiled shyly. I've never had a deskmate before. You don't mind, right? When Luis smiled, he revealed two adorable dimples. But I didn't reciprocate his warm gesture. I just lowered my eyes and nodded. Chapter 17. The fact that Eric hated me didn't change just because I transferred schools. If anything, he became even worse. The more I tried to avoid him, the more he sought me out. Today was no different. The basketball court was on the way to the cafeteria. A group of girls cheered for Eric as he played. I heard the sound of the ball hitting the ground, and instinctively raised my arm to protect my head, trying to run away. But it was too late. Bang! The pain I expected never came. I turned my head, completely stunned. Luis had somehow rushed over and shielded me with his body, taking the hit from the basketball on his shoulder. The ball dropped to the ground. Eric jogged over, his voice cold. Luis, are you crazy? Chapter 18. After the game, Eric blocked Luis and me. I was cautiously debating whether to offer to accompany Luis to the nurse's office. But Luis, with a carefree smile, said, "It's fine, I'm tough, I can handle it." "What are you doing?" Eric was asking Luis. Luis's smile faded, and he slowly countered. "What are you doing? Why did you throw the ball at her?" Eric hesitated. "What does it have to do with you? I'm her deskmate." Eric gave Luis a complicated look. Then he turned to me with a mocking smile. "Quite the charm you've got." Luis stepped in front of me. "Eric, don't be an idiot." After a moment, Eric laughed. "What, did you fall for her?" Chapter 19. Eric always looked at me with that confident, smug gaze. As if I wasn't his childhood friend, or even someone he hated, but rather his possession. Luis was still standing protectively in front of me. "Your families have known each other for years. You shouldn't. We share more than just that kind of relationship." Eric suddenly cut him off with a sneering laugh. "Want to hear about it?" I had a bad feeling. But it was too late to stop him. Eric pushed Luis's shoulder and said, slowly and clearly, "Her first kiss was with me. She transferred here because of me. She even wrote me love letters saying how much she liked me. So who the hell are you?" Chapter 20. I accompanied Luis to the nurse's office. There was a dark bruise on his shoulder. It was clear that Eric didn't hold back. If the ball had really hit me, the outcome would have been much worse. "Were you playing basketball or starting a fight? So reckless." The school nurse scolded him. "You're old enough to know better. Hey, you there, come help him with this ointment." I nodded and stepped forward. The sight of the bruise on his back was startling. "What are you staring at? Scared?" Luis smiled, nonchalantly. "Good thing it hit me. If it had been you, you'd be crying your eyes out, and it wouldn't be pretty." I applied the ointment on his back, murmuring, "Shut up." Outside the curtain, the nurse was tending to another student. "Why are you upset?" Luis was shirtless, and my hand trembled slightly as I applied the ointment. He turned his head, and those eyes, usually full of laughter, were suddenly calm. "He treats you like that, and you're not angry?" I shook my head. "I'm used to it." "Why don't you fight back?" "It's pointless," I said quietly, gently spreading the ointment. "The more I fight back, the worse he gets. He's got issues, there's no reasoning with him, and his family's upbringing doesn't help. If I report him again, he'll just get beaten up, and then he'll take it out on me even more." Luis didn't say anything. I sniffed, staying silent too. But just as I finished applying the ointment and was about to wash my hands, he grabbed them. He carefully wiped the ointment off my fingertips, bit by bit. "Then what about me? How do I look to you?" Chapter 21. Why are you running? As soon as I left the nurse's office, Luis caught up to me. He was slipping on his school jacket as he ran, covering up his toned physique. "What, am I that scary?" "No." "Then stop running." Luis blocked my path, lowering his voice. "You think, with how close Eric and I are, I wouldn't know about your situation with him? Then why are you still bothering me?" There was a hint of accusation in my tone. Luis froze for a moment, then smiled. "What do you mean bothering?" "Deskmate, have a heart. I took a hit for you. Aren't you going to repay me?" "I don't have a heart." It was written all over my face that I was trying to avoid this. But he couldn't help himself, and ruffled my hair with a chuckle. Fine, heartless one. Chapter 22. When I got home, as soon as I stepped into the living room, I saw Eric. He was sitting on my family's sofa, and beside him were my parents. Seeing his unfriendly gaze, I suddenly had a bad feeling. Zoe, come over. My mom's smile seemed a bit forced. Sit down. Don't rush off to your room. I sat down near Eric, leaving one seat between us. My mom slid her phone over to me, and on the screen was a photo. It was a picture of me and Luis walking side by side, with his hand ruffling my hair. Zoe, tell me, who is this boy? I glanced at Eric. The smugness was plain on his face. My dad stayed silent, lighting a cigarette. Seeing that I didn't respond, my mom started speaking in a serious, gentle tone. Zoe, you're in your final year of high school now. It's good that you've made friends since transferring, but there are boundaries. You know what's appropriate and what isn't, don't you? Yes. I took a deep breath. I'll change. At that moment, a message from Eric popped up on my phone. It was just a short sentence. Snitching isn't that hard, is it? The next second, I blocked and deleted him. Chapter 23. We're just friends, nothing more. After sending Eric off, I stubbornly repeated to my mother. I was isolated before I transferred, and it wasn't my fault. I was the victim. I didn't do anything wrong. But my mother just sighed. I know you wouldn't, but I'm worried. I'll have Eric keep an eye on you. That boy has always looked out for you. What if I said he's lying? That he's changed? My hands clenched into fists, trembling slightly. I stared at my mother, waiting for her response, suddenly wanting to tell her everything Eric had done to me. The isolation, the transfer, the bullying. But she just rubbed her temples. Zoe, then where did this photo come from? I want you to be an honest child. In that instant, I loosened my grip. Forget it. Chapter 24. The next day at school, I noticed the odd looks from my classmates. Thanks to Eric, everyone knew about the incident on the basketball court yesterday where he and Luis had a fight over me. Luis acted like nothing was wrong, sitting at his desk, catching up on his homework. Hey, deskmate, let me copy yours. I glanced at his blank sheet. Why don't you do it yourself? He cleared his throat and pretended to stretch his shoulder, then winced in pain. With a pitiful tone, he said. See? Heartless one, you bullied me and won't even take responsibility. A few classmates turned to look at us, and my cheeks warmed. Shut up. Luis just laughed, carefree and without a worry. I sat down and handed him my completed sheet. But then, my front row seatmate turned around. It was Eric's current girlfriend, Selena. Zoe, let's talk. Chapter 25. Luis grabbed my wrist, looking up at Selena. What do you want? She blinked. What's it to you? Selena was well known in our grade. Pretty, curvy, and with a bright, straightforward personality. She knew a lot of people, even outside of school. Compared to me, new and unfamiliar with the environment, Luis was worried I might get taken advantage of. But I gently brushed his hand off. It's fine. I stood up. Let's go, we'll talk outside. Chapter 26. This photo, you're familiar with, right? It was the picture of Eric forcefully kissing me in the private room. When Selena showed me the photo, I wasn't surprised. After all, it had caused quite a stir before I transferred, so it wasn't shocking that she knew about it. But her next words caught me off guard. From the angle of this photo, were you willing? Selena zoomed in, stopping at the part where Eric had my hands pinned against the wall. She said. He was out of line, wasn't he? Chapter 27. Back in the classroom, Luis leaned in and quietly said. Eric broke up with Selena. Selena had just sat down too. Her back was straight, showing no sign of heartbreak. I asked him. Are you sure Eric was the one who broke up with her? Because just before we came back to the classroom, Selena had asked me. Zoe, do you want to get back at him? Chapter 28. After school, I was slowly packing my bag. Luis called out to me. Zoe, look at the back door. It was Eric. He wore his school uniform sloppily, one hand in his pocket, leaning against the doorframe. His fingers tapped rhythmically as he tilted his head, giving me a sidelong glance. I instinctively tightened my grip on my bag strap. But Eric walked right in. With a loud thud, he slammed a can of Coke onto my desk. Your mom said I'm supposed to take you home from now on, to prevent any more trouble. As he said this, he glanced over at Louise. Louise pushed the can of Coke back toward him. She doesn't need it. Chapter 29. What's it to you? Eric's gaze at Louise turned icy. Louise, there are some things you shouldn't get involved in. Then I'm telling you too, don't be an idiot. Louise spoke slowly, deliberately. We're friends, and I can't control your personal life, but when it comes to Zoe, don't go overboard. Oh, you've really fallen for her? Enough. The next moment, a cup of water splashed directly onto Eric's face. I closed the cup, as if making a decision. Eric, don't you get it? I don't need you. If you want to tattle or mess with me, do whatever you want, but right now, get out. Chapter 30. When Louise pressed the cold can of Coke against my cheek, I was still in a daze. What's wrong? Stunned? Or was throwing that water at him so satisfying you're still savoring it? I frowned and took the Coke from his hand. You talk like you got some benefit out of it. Louise's hair was still dripping. When I splashed Eric with the water, he quickly grabbed a cup nearby. Then, he threw it at Louise, who was standing in front of me. Louise wiped his face and didn't say a word. Eric smashed the cup down and, before storming off, left me with a threat. Zoe, if you've got guts, don't come back. I opened the can of Coke and took a sip. Aren't you going to dry off? Louise sighed. Heartless one, you won't even hand me a napkin to dry myself. I put the can down and started feeling around in my pocket. I'll find one. The playground was mostly empty after school, with only a few people still playing basketball. Louise and I sat side by side on the bench. Hey, found one. I looked up, and my words got stuck. Because Louise had picked up the can of Coke and taken a sip. From the exact spot where I had just drunk. Cough, his ears turned a bit red, as he put the can back down. Didn't see any napkins, so I figured a sip of Coke would do, okay? Chapter 31. Louise and I stayed out for a long time. When we left the cinema, I hung up on the third call from home. He glanced over at me. You really aren't going to answer? I replied calmly. It's late, Eric's probably done making up a story about how I snitched. Why pick up just to get yelled at? Louise snickered. Never thought you had such a rebellious side. We found a barbecue place and decided to have a late-night snack. We didn't bring any money, so we had to rely on Louise, the rich but silly kid, to cover it. Well, even good students drink beer. 2 bottles of beer sat on the table. I shook my head. The owner gave them to us. Gave them to us? Do we not look like high schoolers? You look like a spoiled rich kid skipping class with a girl. Louise laughed again. I couldn't help but smile, just a little. He opened a bottle and poured 2 cups. Well, then this spoiled rich kid will show you how it's done. The beer didn't taste great. I choked a bit, and amidst the aroma of barbecue and the buzz of the crowd, I heard Louise put his cup down. I can't stand him anymore either. Chapter 32. I've been his childhood friend for over 10 years. Eric wasn't always like this. He used to just be a bit arrogant, liked to say the opposite of what he meant, stubborn, but he never purposely bullied anyone. I remember when we were little, I got bullied once, and he stood up for me, ended up covered in bruises. I asked him about it, and he refused to say a word. His dad had a terrible temper, and if I hadn't gone to his house and cried, I was afraid his dad would have beaten him to death. I think it was sometime in middle school when I heard from my parents that his mom had an affair, and his dad found out and beat her. Eric tried to stop him, and he got hit too. It was a disgraceful thing, and their family was never the same after that. Eric, well, he started going down a different path. And then, it was that game of truth or dare when he began to hate me. Louise clinked his glass against mine. It's okay. You've put up with him for years, and that's enough. He chose his own path, and he has to bear it himself. I didn't respond, just took another sip of my drink. But the next second, he grabbed my glass. Stop drinking. You're not some spoiled rich kid. I couldn't help but laugh. Well, then you stop drinking too, spoiled kid. I leaned in closer, my eyes bright with amusement. If you get drunk, I can't drag you back, you're built like a bear. Luis's ears turned red, and he pulled back, muttering. Why are you getting so close? Can't you have a little ladylike decorum? Chapter 33. When I got home, it was already late at night. All the lights in the house were on. Clearly, no one had gone to bed. I pushed the door open, feeling the gazes from the living room. As I changed my shoes and took off my bag, my face expressionless. Zoe, come over. It was my mother who spoke first. This time, the living room only had my parents. Eric, that jerk, was thankfully absent. I walked over, standing in front of them, head held high, showing no expression. Do you not realize what you did wrong? This time it was my father speaking. His next words came out heatedly. Staying out until this hour, not answering calls, ignoring messages, do you even know what you're doing? Zoe, my mother gently tugged at my father's sleeve. Tell Mom the truth. Were you out with that boy from the last photo? Did you do anything you shouldn't have? Didn't Eric already tell you everything? I looked up, and for the first time, I felt so calm inside. I already said before, he's just a classmate. He got hurt, so I went with him to the nurse's office. That's all. Why did you need to go with him? My father countered. Because he got hurt protecting me. I threw my bag down on the floor. Because your obedient Eric doesn't like me, hates me, and threw a ball at me. If it weren't for him taking the hit, I'd have been the one hit. The room fell silent for a moment. I took a deep breath, looking at my parents' stunned faces, and I smiled. Still don't believe me? I bent down, rummaging through my bag, my hands trembling as I searched for my phone. When I found the photo, my hands were shaking even more. Here, look. I handed them the photo of Eric forcibly kissing me. If you don't believe what I say, then see for yourselves. Chapter 34. After finally finishing my conversation with my parents, I went back to my room. As I lay down on my bed, feeling as if a weight had been lifted off my shoulders, I received a message on WeChat. It was from Luis. Did your family catch you drinking? Remember to drink some lemon water. I put a lemon in your bag ***. And hey, no more drinking outside next time, or I'll tell your parents. Also, don't take your family's words to heart. When it comes to Eric, you've got me. I stared at the screen and, for some reason, I couldn't help but laugh. Luis was the one who lived with Eric, and yet now he was the one more worried about me. I recalled my parents' shocked and bewildered expressions, and a strange feeling welled up inside me. I remembered how my mother reacted. She turned off the phone screen and handed it back to me. Zoe. Mom understands now, I'm sorry, but you know about Eric's family situation. I shook my head. I understand. I hadn't turned on the light, the room was dark, and I just lay there staring at the ceiling. Then I heard a noise from the balcony. I got out of bed, stepping barefoot across the floor. And there, bathed in the soft moonlight, I saw the last person I wanted to see, Eric. Chapter 35. Eric's house was close to mine. But he was supposed to be living in the apartment near the school with Luis. Yet there he was, sitting on the tree outside my window, just outside the wall, tilting his head as he looked at me. Back from your little date with Luis? I kept my face blank, grabbing the curtains to pull them closed, but he stopped me. Zoe, look what I have here. He was holding something in his hand. I paused, and then I saw it. It was a lock of hair, tied with a string, the same lock of my hair he had cut off to placate the school beauty. Instinctively, I touched the uneven strands by my ear. Eric started to laugh. He spoke slowly, emphasizing each word. This is proof you were my little simp. But I didn't spare him even a glance. Then keep it, and enjoy being alone with it for the rest of your life, you jerk. Chapter 36. A few days later, it was time for the sports festival. Eric had been unusually quiet. With the citywide mock exams scheduled right after the event and the basketball games during the festival, he was probably too busy. Thinking about the mock exams, I recalled what Selena had said that day. Eric plans to cheat on this exam. He already bought the answers, but I got hold of his transaction records. Being his girlfriend, she had easy access to his phone and could unlock it, getting any records she needed. The USB drive with those records was already in my bag. I sat on the bleachers, lost in thought. The next moment, the familiar cold touch of a Coke can pressed against my cheek. Without looking up, I took the can. Luis, boys shouldn't drink so much Coke. Oh, now even the good student makes dirty jokes, huh? Luis casually pinched my cheek. I slapped his hand. Quit messing around. He just chuckled and sat down next to me. You didn't sign up for any events? I opened the Coke. Too lazy, too tired, not interested. Luis grinned. Not a single athletic bone in your body, huh? And what did you sign up for, Mr. Muscle? He kept smiling, completely oblivious to the sarcasm in my tone. I've got the basketball finals this afternoon. Come watch me, okay? Chapter 37. I agreed. But when I arrived at the game, no matter how much I looked around, I couldn't find Luis. In his place was a new player. As I moved closer to the court, I spotted Eric. He was wearing a white jersey with the bold number 6. And I immediately noticed the bright star sticker on the lower left corner of the jersey. That was Luis's jersey. A sudden sense of unease rose inside me. Zoe. The heavy, clear sound of the ball hitting the ground echoed. Eric unceremoniously grabbed my wrist. Running away? Don't you want to watch me play? At that moment, all eyes in the stadium were on us. He then lowered his head, speaking slowly, in a voice only the two of us could hear, right by my ear. Or do you want to guess where Luis is right now? Chapter 38. Smack. The sharp sound echoed through the gym. I had just slapped Eric across the face in front of the entire school. He didn't even react, didn't retaliate. For a moment, everyone was stunned, staring at us. I took a deep breath. Eric, that slap was for the time you threw that ball at me. The basketball hit the ground and bounced away. Once he snapped out of it, Eric grabbed my wrist. His cheek was flushed, and he looked at me with a dangerously intense gaze. Zoe, do you even know what the hell you're doing? Yes, I do. He had my wrist in a tight grip, and I couldn't break free. So I stopped trying. I already told my parents about you forcing a kiss. You caused me to be isolated, forced me to transfer, made everyone avoid me like the plague. Eric, you weren't like this before. Do you even recognize who you are now? Eric's hand froze. I took that moment to pull away, yanking my hand free from his grip. Tell me where Luis is. But instead of getting angry, he laughed. Where is he? Zoe, if you have guts, why don't you go find him yourself? Chapter 39. The school was big. I ran from building to building, checking every room, banging on doors and calling out Luis's name. Finally, I found him in an empty classroom on the top floor. Luis was just sitting there, perched on an empty desk, casually watching the basketball game through the window. Eric wasn't on the court. And Luis was locked inside. What are you doing here? Seeing me, he looked a bit surprised. How did you know I was here? I thought you'd see I wasn't on the court and just leave. I pounded on the door, furious. You're still joking. Don't you have any sense of danger? What if no one came, and no one found you? But you're here, aren't you? Luis pushed the door, confirming it was locked. I got locked in. I didn't expect Eric to pull this trick, luring me in and then locking me up. It's fine, security will come around to check, and I'll get out then. I sniffed. I'm going to find a security guard to get the key. Hey, don't rush. Through the window, I stood in the hallway, locking eyes with Luis. He sat down casually on the desk, smiling with that goofy grin. Look at us now. Don't we look like Romeo and Juliet, staring at each other through a window? I couldn't help but laugh. What kind of Romeo acts like a big bear like you? Chapter 40. I finally got the door open, but by then, the basketball game had ended. I knew Luis had been looking forward to this game, and he had prepared for it for a long time. As we walked a few steps, I couldn't help but call out to him. Luis. I'm sorry. He turned his head. What are you apologizing for? If it weren't for me, Eric wouldn't have tried to get back at you, right? The hallway on the 4th floor was quiet. Everyone was at the sports field, and the school building was empty, making our footsteps echo. Luis chuckled softly, half-jokingly said. Yeah, it's been rough. So, how do you plan to make it up to me? I stopped walking, seriously thinking about the question. But he just laughed again, threw his arm around my shoulder, and pulled me along. Come on, doing a good deed a day, I'm not really going to make you pay me back. Heartless one. I thought of that day in the nurse's office, when he asked. Then what do you think of me? But even now, I still didn't dare ask what he meant by that. Luis smelled fresh, like laundry detergent. The strength of a young man's arm wasn't just pulling my shoulder, it felt like it was holding a heart that was about to burst free. I could hear someone's heartbeat getting faster. I wasn't careful, and on the stairs, I missed a step. Careful. Luis's arm caught me completely. Behind me was the cold, hard wall, in front of me was his warm, broad chest. I leaned against him, my mind blank. Why is your face red? Luis suddenly lowered his head, his breath brushing against my cheek. So, with this kind of atmosphere, does this mean I can confess? Chapter 41. Luis and I walked out of the school building side by side. His teammates from the basketball team rushed over, playfully swinging at him. Where did you disappear to? You and Eric both decided to ditch. The coach was so pissed, he postponed the game to the day after tomorrow. Hearing that, I sighed in relief. Thankfully, it wasn't over yet, there was still a chance. Luis waved at them with a grin. The day after tomorrow, then. With me on the team, we got this. Their eyes flickered over to me, making me feel a bit uncomfortable, so I tugged on Luis's sleeve. He looked down and, without hesitation, took my hand. Want to grab dinner? That action was a clear declaration. His teammates exchanged knowing looks, then gave Luis a thumbs up. My cheeks felt hot again. I tried to pull my hand away, but he only held on tighter. As we left the field, he lowered his head, teasingly. What's wrong? Am I embarrassing you? I was so mad I punched him lightly. You're just taking advantage. But in the next moment, we turned a corner and unexpectedly locked eyes with someone else. Eric was staring at our hands, fingers intertwined, with a cold smile. Oh, found someone to take you already? Chapter 42. Eric didn't linger, just threw that line at us and walked away. Luis let out a breath, gently stroking the back of my hand to comfort me. It's okay. If he acts out again, I'm here to share the burden. But I couldn't shake a sense of unease. I just feel like I don't know him anymore. When we were kids, Eric and I lived up to the term childhood friends. Later, maybe because of family troubles, maybe because he strayed, he turned into what he is now. Luis reached out and ruffled my hair. I won't let him bully you anymore. Does that mean I've been really weak, and I dragged you into this? He shook his head with a smile. If it were me, I'd struggle too. Sometimes, when someone changes, but you still remember the good in them, it hurts more than if they'd just turned completely bad. And what about you? I looked at Luis and asked. Will you change? Luis's smile faded a bit, then he hooked his pinky finger around mine. If that day ever comes, you have to slap me, call me a jerk, and kick me out. Don't ever let yourself suffer. Chapter 43. Before the mock exams, I stayed home to study. My parents' attitude toward me had improved a lot, and there was a plate of fruit on the table that my mom had brought in. But just when everything seemed to be getting better, with only one day left before the exams, I realized something was wrong when Luis didn't show up. I called him over a dozen times, but no one answered. As I turned the corner in the hallway, someone blocked my way. Where are you going? It was Eric. He still had a bruise at the corner of his mouth and a faint cut near his eye. The unease inside me reached its peak at that moment. Where is Luis? He smirked, but there was a tiredness behind it. He grabbed my hand, slowly yet firmly, intertwining our fingers. Eric's eyes dropped to a barely noticeable red mark near the edge of my collar. It was from the other day when Luis had been gentle, not daring to go too far, leaving only a subtle, almost invisible mark. Yet, Eric saw it. His breathing was heavy, and he pressed down on my shoulder, repeating, Where do you think you're going? It's none of your business. Doesn't matter. Eric lowered his head, suddenly tightening my school uniform collar, and his tone softened, almost pleading. Forget him, Zoe. Let's start over. Chapter 44. Luis had been beaten and sent to the hospital by Eric. When I pushed the door open and saw Luis lying pale on the hospital bed, my breath caught. Luis. He opened his eyes and, seeing me, gave a faint smile. How did you find me? Sorry for making you worry. Luis was from out of town, studying here on his own. He hadn't notified his parents. It was his older brother who brought him to the hospital. This is my fault. He tried to sit up, propping himself up on the bed. Yesterday, I was being an idiot, deliberately provoking him, and the bastard didn't hold back. I couldn't fight him off, but he didn't come out unscathed either. It's just a scratch, nothing serious. I gently touched the small scar at the edge of his brow. Remembering Eric's desperation earlier that day, I didn't feel a shred of satisfaction. Seeing Luis like this, I only felt a deep ache. This can't just end like this, I said, my voice resolute. Luis, I'm going to make him apologize to you. He chuckled. How? The guy still has a thing for you. I don't want an apology if it means losing a girlfriend as heavenly as you. But I didn't laugh. I took a USB drive out of my bag and handed it to him. Luis, letting this go any longer is only going to hurt him more. Chapter 45. Zoe. I saw Eric standing outside the hospital. He knew I had come to see Luis. He followed me all the way here, but he didn't stop me or come upstairs. He walked towards me, and I took a few steps back. Eric. Eric stopped, looking at me steadily. Zoe, I've messed up before. Can you teach me to be better? I shook my head. Did you forget? I tried to teach you. That time at the internet cafe, you yelled at me for meddling and told me to get lost. His words faltered, his throat bobbing slightly, as if he wanted to say something but couldn't find the words. I gave him a small smile. Eric, go and apologize to Luis. The light in his eyes disappeared completely. Eric took a few quick steps towards me, grabbing my shoulders, his voice trembling. Have you really fallen for him? Eric, this isn't about whether I like him or not. I pushed against his hands. You should see a therapist. So even you think I'm sick? Eric, I know what's going on at home. This is just a sincere suggestion. You beat Luis so badly, he could easily press charges against you. Eric's grip loosened. Zoe, don't choose him. Teach me. I'll learn. Can you teach me? It's too late. I looked at him, this boy who had become unrecognizable from the person I once knew. I'm only now realizing that I never liked you, but rather who you used to be, the stubborn but soft-hearted, slightly arrogant boy. That's why I kept forgiving you over and over, but all I got was you pushing your behavior further. I had a feeling. After things fell apart at home, you started to envy me. You hated that I had a happier family, hated that I could live freely, hated that I had admirers but wouldn't lower myself before you, not even for a single kind word. Eric, I saw it that day. You pieced back together the torn-up love letter, and you tried to braid that lock of my hair into the red string, bit by bit. But you still hated me, and I couldn't understand why until I overheard your mom talking to mine, saying you'd been diagnosed with bipolar disorder. I could hear Eric's breathing grow heavier. Finally, I took a step back and waved to Eric's mom, who was hurrying over behind him. It's okay, Eric. You just need to rest and take care of yourself. And after all the pain you've caused me, I won't pity you anymore. Chapter 46. Eric was soon put on academic suspension. Along with that, the evidence of his cheating, the USB drive, was handed in. The truth came out, and everyone learned about his mental health condition. I even received apologies from many people, including the school beauty. But there were also those who came to congratulate me. Like Selena. Selena had noticed Eric's bipolar disorder not much later than I did. So she came to me, hoping to ensure that he would get the treatment he needed. A few times, when he was out drinking, he was calling your name, she said. When she handed me the USB drive, she was still smiling. Calling your name, saying he liked you, and then cursing you for being so aloof. That's when I figured he must really be sick. Aside from the suspension, I heard that Eric's parents had finally divorced. Years of torment, struggle, and drama all ended with the revelation of his mental illness. Eric's mother quit her job to take care of him. When she called me, I was still sitting by Luis's hospital bed reading a book. Zoe, about everything that happened. I apologize on his behalf. In the future, would you mind coming to visit him? But I gently declined. Luis missed the mock exams, but he was recovering quickly. He was upset about everything, playfully ruffling my hair again. I can't believe you took him down behind my back without even letting me know. Makes me look useless. I smiled, trying to soothe him. Isn't it enough that I'm useful? Luis was about to be discharged soon. Out of nowhere, I asked him. Back at the nurse's office, were you planning to confess to me? He froze, shifting his arm a little awkwardly. Why are you suddenly asking that? The answer was obvious. You spoiled rich kid. I rolled my eyes at him. Weren't you afraid I'd be one of those hopelessly romantic types, madly in love with Eric no matter what he did, treating him like my first love even after everything, and then turning around to accuse you of having improper intentions towards me? No, no, no. Luis shook his head vehemently. Impossible. You're way too smart for that. I don't believe it. Besides, who said it was just because I thought you were pretty? Chapter 47. Luis was actually a good student. Before I transferred, he had come to our school to compete. He and his friends would hang around in small groups, looking like a bunch of troublemakers, typical bad boys. Yet, someone still joked. Luis, with your charm, you're bound to make a bunch of girls swoon, huh? And he, ever the cocky one, responded. You flatter me. My charm is rare, saying a bunch is being modest. That's when I happened to walk past them. Back then, I hadn't been isolated yet, and Eric's condition wasn't that severe. There's a film crew outside the school gates. Maybe you should apply for a role as a spoiled rich kid. I said, carrying my books, my mouth moving faster than my brain. I didn't even look up as I walked past him. Luis's eyes lingered on me. I walked straight into the school building, not bothering to spare him a single glance. Oh wow, Luis, looks like she didn't fall for your charms, someone teased. Back then, Luis had a record of school infractions thick enough to fill a notebook. Except for one line, no early relationships. He turned and saw the school bulletin board. Right in the most prominent spot were my name and photo. Zoe. Luis stared at that photo, thinking for a full 10 seconds. Finally, he came to a conclusion. Well, guess I've met my match. Everyone burst into laughter. But a small, empty space in the boy's heart began to quietly fill. From that day on, Luis's notebook had 2 new lines. Stop acting like a spoiled rich kid. Make sure my name is next to hers.